Hey y'all, it's Davey Mooney coming to you from UNT where I run the jazz guitar program. I'm a Benedetto artist, Sunnyside Records artist. We have a release date for the new Sunnyside CD, June 9th, 2023, y'all. Way back on Sunnyside Records. And I've got my Mel Bay books, Personalizing Jazz Vocabulary, and Into the Labyrinth, an Anatomy of Position Playing for Jazz Guitar. It's mid-November. I don't know when you'll see this video, but 2022, cruising towards the Thanksgiving break here at UNT. The semester is at that point where we're all getting the beat down, so to speak, but we're powering through. Everybody's a little sick or recovering or getting sick, etc. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that today. What I want to talk about is chord melody, solo guitar arranging, and specifically as it applies to the tune Prelude to a Kiss, a beautiful Duke Ellington song. And I'm going to play a chord melody and go through the the techniques that I like to use in this one, and really in all the chord melodies I do at this point. I've been doing them for so long that I've come up with a handful of tricks, if you will, that get me through your standard sort of ballads. And I kind of have two styles for solo guitar playing. When I go on a solo gig and I've got to play for 3 hours, I don't have 3 hours of worked out intricate arrangements. I sort of have a style where I play the head. I have like a head semi worked out, how to play the head with the melody and the chords in tempo perhaps, and then I solo for a while. Try to fill up the time till the next break. But then if I'm doing a chord melody for a more formal situation, like in the school setting, it would be like for a jury or a midterm, or in the professional world, like for a concert or a recording in particular. I try to, kind of pull out all the stops, and I'm basically like composing a little classical piece in a jazz style. It's kind of like Joe Pass, Art Tatum, Barney Kessel. I can name the names of great solo jazz guitar players. But Prelude to a Kiss is a real good vehicle for that because it's got so much harmony already. It's almost like tailor-made for the chord melody game. But I was going back, when I do these videos, I like to sort of question my assumptions about what the chords are to these songs, because there's so many versions. So I went back to the Ellington. The earliest one I could find is 1938, and I think that's when the song was first written or recorded. There's an instrumental version, Ellington and the orchestra, and they're in A flat of all keys, because generally, I learned this song in C. Tony Bennett is in C. There's a great recording from the 90s from Seamus Blake on the record The Call with Rosenwinkel with the chorus. It's great. It's like heavy chorus, 1990s. I still remember, y'all. People want to forget and pretend that didn't happen. But the chorus, Duff McKagan, Kurt Cobain, Kurt Rosenwinkel, etc. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, The Call is a great record, and that's in C as well. But this original Ellington one, so they're in A flat, and it's interesting because they start on a. Well, let me say the sort of standard chords in C would be like D13, G7, C7, F major, B13, E9, A7, D minor, then maybe D minor, G7 to A minor, D7, D minor, G7, C. That's the A section. It happens twice, and then the B, you go to the key of E. So B7, and you have E, C sharp minor. It's a really cool melody. It's like 1, 6, 2, 5, and E with that really like angular Ellingtonian melody. And then some versions will go to like the 3 there, some will go back to the 1. Some will go 6 again, some will go flat 3 diminished, like Tony Bennett goes flat 3 diminished, 2, 5, E again, 6, beautiful melody. Sort of the 2 is usually like a minor 7 flat 5 because the melody goes to the flat 9 on the B7 on the 5 chord, although Ella Fitzgerald sings in her key, she's in key of B flat, right? I'm gonna confuse her. No, she's in F because the bridge goes to A, and she sings a simple melody. She doesn't sing the flat 9. She sings a natural 9 on the 5 chord. I was like, what? What's going on? I thought the whole point of that song was that flat 9 melody, but she'll go like. And then she sings the flat 9. Though it's just a simple melody with. So, you think the melodies are sacred, and then you hear some, like, giant of music like Ella sing a different note. But, sorry, where was I? I was in the key of C. So the way they get back to the A section, they go like E7 or E sus. Some people play E minor. Tony Bennett's record, they play E minor to A7. And then like D minor, E flat minor, E minor, E flat 7, and that gets you back to the D. Well, there's a lot of variations on that ending to get back to the A section. That's the place where I think a lot of people want to put their 2 cents in harmonically and come up with a twist on it. So I'm not going to go through all the different variations because we'd be here all day, and I got to teach. But that's how you get back to the last A section, and then the same thing as the first A. So that's in the key of C, and I think those are kind of the standard chords. That's how I learned it. But it was interesting to see in the Ellington, the original one, where they're in A flat, they go B flat 7, the normal starting chord, and then the second chord they go right to like A7, flat 13, instead of going just a cycle of 4ths, kind of dominant progression. And I think of that as being like the tritone sub of B flat 7, E flat 7. The tritone sub would be A7. Tritone subs are a technique I use a lot in chord melody playing. And I was like, so that's the original version. And the same thing, they go G7, G flat 7, F7, B flat minor. And I was like, man, they were doing tritone subs, 1938, Or maybe it's not a tritone sub, it's just that's the chords of the song. And then they go B flat minor, E flat minor to A flat major, not to F minor, but A flat major, B flat 7 to 5 to C. And the bridge, you're in C, it takes you to the key of C, G7, and oh, it's just a simple melody. He does play the flat 9 note with nothing fancy, nothing much. Of course, there's no lyrics on the original version, so it's in C, A minor, D, and then he goes C major, A minor, and then B flat minor, B minor, C minor 11, B7, back to the B flat 13, and then the tritone sub thing. So the chords in C that, again, confession time, I learned it from the real book. But over the years, I've played it with a lot of people and listened to a lot of versions. So those chords in the key of A flat track pretty directly with the ones in C that I learned. So I just thought it was interesting that they had the tritone subs there. And, again, it's been recorded by a million people. You can go and check. I'm sure there'll be little variations. But I'm going to play my arrangement of it. And like I said, I have a little bag of tricks. And basically, they're tritone subs. I'm going to talk about everything I did after I play it. But I use tritone subs. I use like moving lines, counter lines against the melody. Often in contrary motion, so if the melody goes down, I'll have another line that goes up. And what else do I do? Sometimes I'll do a technique that I learned as planing, meaning like you take sort of a constant structure and you just move it around. Some chord that you like the sound of. Sometimes you can go. I'll do a little bit of that, and then I'll do my harp harmonics. That's kind of my when there's an empty space and I want to do a fill. I use the harp harmonics that I learned from Steve Mazikowski by way of Phil Degree as one. They kind of, I think, learned it together from Lenny Bro. I almost forgot his name. It's been a long semester, y'all. And also like a variety of right-hand techniques. Like sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll play. I'll strum run the chords. I mean, there's a lot of things I can do with the right hand to give different textures. So here it is. I'm going to play the chord melody on the 2022 version, anyway, chord melody of this tune. I've done it many times. So here it is. Hope you like it. All right, so a lot of stuff in there. So let's just go through it. So I started out with a kind of tritone sub idea, and I love tritone subs. They never get old, y'all. They just the gift that keeps on giving. And before I talk about what I did, I think my favorite instance of tritone sub use in solo guitar playing is the intro that Joe Pass does on Nuage on the album For Django. And I just want to show you that for a second because I'm always like chasing that and trying to recreate the vibe of that intro. So Nuage, the Django Reinhardt song, and the chords, the melody goes like E flat 7, E flat 9, D7 flat 9, G. So there's that chromatic melody at the beginning. And Joe Pass does this, he goes it doesn't fill, but that sounds really cool. Basically, all he's doing, if you look at the upper structure of it, it's just this. So it could be, you could interpret that a number of different ways. It could be like G7, C7, F7, B flat 7, E flat 7. And this is actually also an instance of a technique I learned as back cycling. There's a combination of tritone subs and back cycling in there. And back cycling means that if you have a target chord of like an E flat 9, you go back through the cycle of 5-1, 5-1, cycle of fourths, cycle of fifths to arrive at that chord. So basically he's going G7, C7, F7, B flat 7, E flat. Because all those have a 5-1 relationship and they're all dominant, so you get that kind of thing. And you hear that in, Gershwin, you hear it in Art Tatum a lot. I don't know where it started, but I assume it goes back back a ways. You probably hear it in some Ravel and those type of composers in the classical realm. So he could have gone, so speaking of, Joe Pass could have gone, it would have sounded cool if he'd gone G7, C7, F7, B flat 7, E flat. But the relationship between the bass and the melody is really important. And I tell this to my students, especially when we're working on composing tunes, how important it is. And so Joe Pass chose a relationship for bass to melody that sounds like this, as opposed to if he had just gone G7, C7, F7, B flat 7, the 5-1, 5-1. So he used some tritone subs. So instead of G7 or G9, he used D flat 7 flat 13, and then the C7. So then the regular F7. Regular B flat 7. So really it's just that one change. Instead of the first chord being G7, he made it D flat 7, a tritone substitution. And it works because the G7 and D flat 7 share the same tritone. So you can make D flat 7 could go to G flat or C, and G7 could go to G flat or C. So that's like, great moments in tritone substitution and backcycling. So when I did Prelude to a Kiss at the beginning, I did this. So basically just like, instead of just doing that, D13, A flat 9, G9, D flat 13, C7, G flat, sharp 9. And I find I like the only thing I don't like to do when I'm doing these tritone subs, backcycling, I don't really like the sound of flat 9s in that context. So sharp 9s sound good. So to me, so if I'm looking at the relationship between bass and melody, I've got, and then when I went to the F major 7, I did a little kind of moving, like would classify that as a moving line, almost like F diminished to F major 7. So, and for the right hand technique I chose, I kind of had a quandary about whether I should do one of those, but I decided to go more of a I don't know what you would call this, rhythmical with a little rubato, and then I kept the backcycling going here instead of just going to get to the B13, which is the next chord. I used a D flat 7 to a C7 to a B. So because D flat 7 is like G7, right, which is 5 of C7, which is 5 of B, right? So you have those tritones going down. I could have gone F sharp 7 there, which literally would have been 5 of B, but like I said, I don't like that flat 9, so if I go, I find that a lot more like pleasing than And I'm changing the chords and putting all these extra harmonies in there, so I feel like I don't need to make it any more dissonant than it kind of already is. You gotta be careful not to overdo it with this technique, but I feel like this song is so, it's kind of like backcycling written into the chords of the song and the chromaticism. I don't feel like I ruin it by doing some extra tritone substitution and things like that. So, and then I did the same thing here. And then, except for on the E flat 7, because the melody's a little different there, right? It's not this, so I decided to do an E flat sus. I don't know, just to give it another flavor. And then like a D minor over F, like a 1-6. And this little thing to bring in the 7th string. Like a G sus, G13 sus, and then there's the planing. I just like this chord, Herbie uses this a lot. He probably puts another note in there, especially in the 60s. it's kind of like, you know, a 13 flat 9 sound. And so I get this. So much for not using flat 9s, right? But wanted to put a little, you know, a little funk on it, little dissonance there. And you get a cool. I had to go. And the harp harmonics, they're kind of hard because the 11th fret here, I don't actually have a fret up an octave. And I'll briefly talk about, I think in the past, when I was going to talk about harp harmonics, I was like, I'll just go find a video on YouTube that explains how to do it, but I feel like I should do it. So basically, the basic idea is, say if I bar the 3rd fret, and I kind of use the 7th string as just a bass note that rings, but the technique is I have these 3 fingers here, and it's actually an illusion, so I'll pluck with my middle finger the 4th string, just open, well it's not open, it's fretted, but you know, without any harmonic, and then I'm holding my 1st finger over the fret an octave higher, not pushing down, just touching it, and then plucking with my thumb, and that's where the fingernails are important. So I get the sound of like, because this is up an octave and it rings, and then I just go up, so every other string is a harmonic, and the other, so 4th string, open, 6th string harmonic, 3rd string open, 5th string harmonic, 2nd string, 4th string. And if you have a real gnarly chord, like a chord that sounds kind of dissonant, when you play it in the lower octave, if you do harp harmonics, it kind of like opens it up a little bit. You can get some real gnarly ones on the 7th string too, like. Shout out to Mezikowski on this one, right? Does he do that or that? No, there's a bunch of them. Here's another one I do a lot. But this is hard up this high because, like I said, this fret up an octave, there's actually no fret there. So I have to make sure I get it in the right spot. I don't have like a map. So that's what I did there. And then for the like contrary motion line, so the melody goes up, and I have a line. I start with an octave, and you get a little what is it, Stairway to Heaven, you know. And then I did more harp. There's another good harp harmonic chord. I learned this from Steve Mezikowski's solo arrangement of Monk's Mood from Direct Access back in the 90s. And then this one gives you a whole tone scale. It's like a E flat 9, sharp 11 with an A down in the bottom, so you get whole tone, you know, Ellingtonia. I think you can put that in there. So then back to the 2nd A. So I wanted to change it up a little bit, but keep the same idea. So I flipped the tritone substitution. So instead of starting on a D9, D13, I started on an A flat 7 sharp 9, and I went then to a D flat 7 flat 13, and then I kind of skipped ahead to the C7. There should kind of be another beat of some kind of G7 thing before the C7, but I figured, hey, why not? I was trying to imitate, you know, a little bit the Joe Pass thing. See, I'm always chasing it. I never quite get it, but then I did an E diminished. Why not? It's like a sub for C7. It's another C7. So, and then back to that G flat 7 sharp 9. I hope I don't say, if I leave out a flat or a sharp in all these numbers I'm saying, please forgive me. It does happen. Did that again, and then this time, instead of going, I felt like that was quite enough tritone substitution, so I did this little thirds thing, because you get a cool, again, a contrary motion of, for this melody here, I just put thirds underneath it, but then you get, from this one to this one, you get a little, one note goes up, one note goes down thing, so I went, sus chord again. So. As I played through that a few times back when I was recording this, I was like, am I ruining it? Am I making it too dissonant and trying to do my tricks? Getting too cute? And I thought, yeah, maybe, but oh well, here it is. So, you know, and I did this arrangement too kind of as a learning sort of pedagogical thing to show students like all that you could do on this. But I think I can live with it. So then this again, and I did a little kind of closed voicing chord. That's a technique I don't use as much, like Johnny Smith style closed voicings, because it just hurts. And I'm trying to keep this going for a few more years. So then I did. I think I let the harmonics chill for a second that time, and then it's kind of a contrary motion idea. I changed the chords a little bit, and so I went D minor 7, C sharp diminished, kind of like 5 of the D minor, but then I went down to kind of an A flat 7, but with C in the bass, A flat 13, kind of C minor 7 flat 5, and then this is like a G7, but with G7 flat 9 13 with F in the bass. C like this. I like this voicing. To a F sharp diminished, which is, or is it diminished? It's kind of B7 with F sharp in the bass to get me to the E. So those are the two A's. And the bridge, what I did? I think that's what I did. So I did like diminished, E diminished to E major 7. And I kind of, I put this C7 sharp 9 here to get to the C sharp minor, just because I like the sound of it. So that's some tritone substitution too, right? C sharp after the C sharp minor, G7, which is like a tritone sub of C7, which would be 5 of F sharp, and then it's an F sharp minor 7 flat 5, and then C13, which is 5 of B7. I just put the 5th in the bass. The 3 chord G sharp minor to G13 again, 5 of F sharp. And then this is a cool voicing, like if the melody is on the 7 of a dominant 7, you playing like an F triad with B in the bass, nice kind of dissonant voicing. And then the second part, I did the diminished again, and then I went to a D sus because it takes me down to C sharp, so kind of a little deceptive. Instead of going to E, I went D sus D7, which is 5 more or less of C sharp minor, then C sharp minor 9, G13, same thing, and then again I wanted kind of a gnarly, like hairy chord there. So it's this again, it's B13 flat 9 with the 7 in the bass, but down in that low register it sounds really kind of gnarly. Then this is kind of like just sort of a right hand thing going from E sus to E7 to A7. D minor to sort of G7. Oops. So that's an example of kind of using the right hand to make it sound a little fancier than it is. Joe Pass would do that a lot. His right hand was so amazing. It's like a classical technique right hand. I don't have that, but I can sort of make it sound like more's going on than really is. So from that chord. And then the last A, I wanted to do something a little different. So this is something I stole from Tom Jobim. He probably stole it from Chopin or something, but he does it on the intro to Louisa on, is that on Passarim? It's on one of those records like from the 80s. So basically, That's the melody. So I went, and I end up here, which is a C7 kind of. So it worked out. So I kind of, this doesn't really harmonically make a whole lot of sense, really, at least with the chords that are written for the song, no, but. And then I have the note go down one more time. Or sorry. Yeah, so the melody's going down, and then when it goes up, I go down. So when the melody's going down, I go up. When this one goes low, this one goes high, so to speak. And then I did this thing again. But I went back to the original tritone sub idea. Time to bring back the harp harmonics. Come on, fingers. And then this one. And this is a tricky one, so I'm actually getting C up here while still barring with this finger, and you get this kind of cool sound. Right, like those gnarly chords that, I don't know if you would necessarily play that just open, but with harp harmonics it sounds really cool. And then I hit a C here because it looks cool when you bring your other hand around for the audience, you know. So anyway, that's the arrangement. That's this week's arrangement of Prelude to a Kiss. You know, if I had to record it, I might tweak it a little bit. You know, you analyze and change what you need to get to where you need to go. But man, it's a beautiful song. Really, you know, early pre-Strayhorn Ellington, and you know, one of the great geniuses of American music for sure. So hopefully that was edifying, educational, hopefully artistically successful as well. So, all right, take care, everybody. See you next time.